Cool people right
Hi
there.
guys, hi
Everyone.
guys. So today with us we have four our well-known speakers, Java champions, true community leaders, Java experts, and simply great guys. So please welcome Bruno Souza, Java champion, Java evangelist, and leader of Soul Java user group from Brazil. You can
Hey
wave.
everyone, awesome to have you here. That's so
um,
cool.
Then Simon Ritter, Deputy CTO of Azul Systems, Java champion and member of GCP Executive Committee and Java C Expert Group from UK.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Simon. Ben Evans, GVM architect at New Relic, former GCP Executive Committee member, Java champion, and author of number of books for Java from Spain.
Hi everyone.
And finally, Mohamed Zaman, Chief Solution Architect at F4Tel, Java Champion, Oracle Groundbreaker Ambassador, author, and GCP Committee member from Serbia.
Hello everyone from
Hi guys.
your neighbor
So
country.
it's my pleasure to host you today at Devoxx Ukraine. Some of you already gave your talks. That was great talks. Today we still have the Bruno talk after this one. I prepared some number of questions for you guys, but I guess I would ask the participants who are watching us online. Please do not hesitate to ask your questions during the talk because this is like a round table. So please chat your questions into the YouTube channel or into the Q&A form on the main kind of page, right? And I'll try to get that questions for our expert Java champions to talk about. So please kind of chat your questions and we'll be happy to discuss that. But just to start from, let's talk about our first kind of encounter with Java. So I remember my first encounter with Java when I was in my first year at university, and I remember we were learning Pascal, but one of our professors said, "Guys, let's learn Java because Java is the future," and looks like he was kind of. Right, because I built my career with Java, starting from Java developer, and I never regret that actually. So can you tell us, guys, what was your first experience with Java, and why did you choose to learn Java at all?
Okay, I'll start since nobody else has.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yes. So
Everyone
when did I
wants to be
first
polite.
meet? Was that?
Everyone wants to be polite.
Yes. Okay. So when did I first meet Java? Well, I think it would have been when it was actually first released back in May of 1995. And I remember sort of reading the reports about this new language and this thing called Hot Java, for those of you who remember Hot Java, which was a browser that was written in Java. And so I thought, well, this kind of sounds interesting. And I didn't really pay much attention to it at that point. And then a few months later, I joined Sun Microsystems, which was February of 1996. And that was about the same week that JDK 1.0 was released. And then when I started working at Sun, I sort of looked at Java and I thought, this looks like it could be big. So I think I need to get into this. And so I think I did my first presentation on Java about maybe May of 1996. In fact, I've still got the slides. I put them on SlideShare.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Guys,
I'll go next.
Who's next? Go for it, Ben.
Okay, so my first encounter with Java was 1998. By the way, I think there's some echo on the line. So if someone is not talking, could they mute? Okay, let's try that.
Is it better now, Ben?
No, I think there's still someone who's not muted.
I can't.
Oh, well, I'll carry on and
myself,
see what we get to.
I'm afraid, but I hope it's not from.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not my
echo
echo.
was only when you didn't have echo, I guess.
Okay, well, I'll carry on and see if that improves. So it was 1998, and I was doing my PhD. And like most PhD students, I had no money. So I went to the employment office and asked for some work. And they said, there's a student who is disabled and in a wheelchair and can't physically get to his lectures. Would you go and take notes and then tutor him afterwards? So I did that. And the first class was graph theory and Dijkstra's algorithm and stuff like that. And then I was fine and I made some money. And then they said, next semester, would you come and do another course for me? It's a brand new programming language called Java. I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. I've never heard of this language. I don't want to do this. And eventually he said, I've asked everybody else and no one can help me. Please, will you help? So I went to the class and taught myself Java so I could teach him. And that was 22 years ago.
Cool. Who's next? Mohammed or Bruno, do you want to share your experience? First experience.
Let me go next then. Yeah, so let me go next then. I was very, very lucky, right? Because I just joined Sun Microsystems as a trainee. And so, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do there because I was a developer. I was studying to be a developer. That's what I was doing, for many, many years already, developing software and everything. And Sun in Brazil was a hardware company, hardware sales, hardware advanced sales. I never thought that Sun had any software development in it, but I love it, Sun, right? I had this experience of working with some people that was working at Sun. I was working at Sun in my universities. So for me, it was like a big dream working for Sun. And so I joined Sun, and I didn't know what to do there. And so my first day, they said, oh, there's this guy here that came from the US, and he's come to give a training on Solaris. I actually have a open Solaris mug right here with me, right? So, this guy came to give a training on Solaris. So, go there and watch it. And so I was there and like first day on the company, didn't know exactly what to do. And at lunchtime, everyone left and it was just him and me in the room. And I'm like, look, it's my first day here. I have no idea where we can go lunch, so let's figure it out together. So we went out. And on the conversation, I told him that I wanted to do software development, but I didn't know what to do at Sun. And he said, you know what? There's this cool thing that Sun is doing, in the U.S., and he mentioned Java, right? And he said, we should take a look. And so when we came back from lunch, he showed me his internal website for Sun, and he was even actually calling the old name of Java, right? So, but the website was already Java. It was internal site, and then 2 weeks after that, John Gage made the first demonstration of Java, like a public demonstration of Java on stage. And then, I don't know, maybe a month after that, my boss comes in the room and said, hey, there's some reporters asking about this Java thing. Does anyone know what this is? And I'm like, yeah, I know what this is. And then that's how it started.
Cool. Mohammed, do you want
Yeah,
to conclude?
Yeah. Actually, I started Java as a normal programming language during my studies in my computer engineering. At that time, Java wasn't that famous. We didn't use it as a programming language to study in the college, but just it came like a lecture or something like this. I was doing C++, basic, because I start working with DOS, there's no Windows. And we use basic, and it was like, wow, we can do one single stuff at a time. And then we migrated to C++, which is very, programming, doing also a very low-level programming language. But compared to assembly language, it's something is very fancy. Then I start to go in the college in the fourth year. At the first year, I start to study Visual Basic, this kind of stuff. Then I stuck with one lecture, one subject, which is data structure and algorithms. Then the lady, she was trying to teach us, but using, all C++, but it was for me like, I start to search for more reliable books. Then I found Java. What is this? Is this programming language? So I start to read about it. I like it. I like it so much. Why? Because I found everything is structured. I like it the way that the concept of interpreted language, it's hybrid, working in any computer and anything, like, wow, this is very nice idea. Let me try it. And I will try to do my homework in Java and prove it. I like always to be out of the box. So this is my starting. Then during the other, I was studying graphics. I did my graphics application in Java. It was 1.2, and there were an OpenGL and Open, DirectX libraries, so you can develop your program and gaming languages at that time. And then I started to love it. I said, okay, I'm going to graduate. I would like to be certified. It was very, very hard to certify Java. I only found Core Java, the big 2 books. I studied them, and then I went to the exam, but thankfully I just passed. I get a good grade. There is no crack examining questions you can find nowadays. It's just pure based on your information. And I liked the exam because the exam also, it shows me it's not just you have to memorize. The exam always trying to see how knowledge you have already in programming, because all the questions, it's throw exceptions. So if you don't know the situation, you will never know the answer. So I started like this. Then I never changed Java. I fell in love. Then I met these amazing guys, and I like to be one as a Java champion and speaker like them. And I remember back days, and in my starting journey, I contacted Bruno to be Java champion and how to be, and he told us participate, man, do this 1, 2, 3. It was 2008, I remember. Then I start to follow his rules and the guidance, and here it is.
Actually, kind of, I have similar kind of question, which we can kind of naturally go to that one. Is about effective learning, and basically how do you start, right? Especially being like a junior developer, or even not necessarily like junior developer, but how would you start? Where can you participate, right? How can you get involved in some Java development, let's say, or OpenJDK development? And can you share some tips of effective learning, and what would you suggest to developers how to start with, how to get engaged?
So this question for me?
No, not necessarily, guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I can start again from this, so we can go back in reverse. So, okay, the first thing is always, as you have said, just continuous learning, because even nowadays, we don't have this luxury like old days that we have the release and we can stay for a while studying, specialized, and then we have another release. Now, it's almost every week you will have a release in library software, and we have this example in JDK, it's each 6 months release cadence now, which is really amazing, and also need from you to study every aspect to see what is the new features, what are the new cool stuff came to the language, and how it's advanced. And also teaching. When you teach someone else, this is very important. You are bringing back your knowledge, you are connecting, and also with the questions from the people you get asked. And this is very important. It's open your mind to have a new keys. So you don't know. I get a lot of questions. The feedback is amazing. So this is why I love speaking. I love spreading. When I go to my company, whenever there is a session I give in a conference, I have to spread it with my team, the company, as a knowledge sharing. And then I tell my developers, guys, or my team, okay, we have this subject, go search for it and present it for us. So you have to encourage people to just share. When you share, It's an amazing. This is how the knowledge transfer. You correct your information to, and also you get more and more thoughts and open views. So now I started as a Java developer, definitely back then in 2005, and now I'm chief solutions architect, or let's say in architecture working environment. What I put in my way of how I could achieve this, because architecture, you will not be, you have to have horizontal knowledge and vertical knowledge. My deep vertical knowledge is in Java. I assume this also because Java is very big, and also horizontal because you have to know how Java and the other components should work together. And what you suggest, you are not just coder, you are coder, you have to know about the cloud environment, you have to know about the hardware, even more, even a higher position, like you have to know to work with C-levels in order to get the ideas and how to do, all of this kind of stuff. But the key point here is learning. So by giving speeches, the speeches should be new for the people. So I get contact for all the JIPs that we have in OpenJDK, Jakarta EE, surrounding things, Spring. So you speak, so you learn. This is how I advance myself. Then also knowledge sharing. So this is the key. And if you can write about them, if you can have the opportunity to, in your Confluence, for example, or blog post in your company, or in your blog, or for whatever the opportunity comes to you, it's very important, but it's a kind of sharing. So yes, keep learning. This is the key of the success.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how. Well, what Bruno said even today. Remember in our Q&A Zoom chat about thinking. What's it called? Like you think that you think you know that, and until you start talking about that, or can you repeat that?
Think. Yeah, that's an awesome thing, right? Because you think that you think when you think, but the truth is you only think when you speak, when you write, when you share. That's why it's so important to write code, right? Because look, our brains are very confusing, right? It's. I mean, when anything that I say right now, there's a lot of things that goes on exploding your brain. Your brain goes all over the place, and so it's very hard to think, right? Only philosophers are actually trained to think, right? Separate, our prejudice, our doubts, our questions, our fears. All of this is mixed in our thinking. So when we share with others, when we speak, when we write, when we externalize, right? When we write code, for example, that's when we organize our thinking to really explain to someone else. And so because of that, right, it's so important to share. I totally agree with Mohammed that the more we share, the more we actually think, right? So that's why on the Q&A that we've been earlier today, he was talking about the rubber duck debugging, or even you talking to a bat, right? That's what you're talking about, right, man? And then or even actually when you for example, when you a suggestion, right? When we have a bug, right, or something that you can't solve, a problem that you can't solve in your work or in an open source project, whatever, right? Whatever you're doing, a good idea to do is go write a bug report, right? Explain to someone else what's going wrong and how they can fix it, right? And usually what happens is right in the middle of you writing this, I know how to fix that, right? Because you externalize your thinking. And then the good thing to do is that once you realize, I know how to fix that, lots of people erase everything and, okay, so I don't need to submit the report anymore. But that's the wrong way of doing it. Once you realize how to fix it, you finish the report, you submit it, and then you go down, you fix the code, and then you go there and you solve your own report. And that's also a great way to show everyone else that you're working, right? So, so the more you externalize, the better it's going to be for you. So that's my main recommendation is that, you learn something, you explain to someone, right? You learn something, you write about it. You learn something, you write some code about it, right? Every time you externalize, you learn better.
Absolutely. That's what I used to tell my developers usually. You understand something, really understand something, if you can explain that to everyone, even to some just ad hoc guy on the street,
So can I add just a little bit?
Yeah. let me talk a little cool story about this. There's a boy here in Brazil that he learned it by himself. He had all kinds of very complicated disease when he was a kid. So when he was 11 years old, he had a liver transplant, and so he spent a lot of time in the hospital. And while he was in the hospital, when 11 years old, he teaching himself how to program using Java, right? And so. And because of that, he's been known for a long time, like the Java boy, right? So he's like 18 now, so he's grown up and everything. But the cool thing about him is that when he was programming, his father and his mother, they're very simple people. They don't have a lot of money and everything. But when he would program, he would go to his mom, and every time he had a problem, he would go to his mom and tell her, "Oh, I have this problem, I can't solve it." And his mom would say, "Oh, tell me more." And so he would explain to her the problem, right? And he would explain what was going wrong and everything. And he's like, "Oh, I know how to solve that." He would go back to his room, right? And then his mom told me, he would say all this thing, and I had no idea what he's talking about, right? I would just hear these kind of strange words I could not understand, but I was like, "Yes, that's very good. How you could solve that?" And so that's what we can do to other people, right? Just kind of listen and help them think. That's already an awesome way to teach.
True.
Exactly. Taking the point of view of different people, I can give like 2 examples. I wrote an articles for InfoQ, and Ben was the reviewer. And during his reviews, he taught me a lot, because this is what I told you, the feedback, because you organize your mind and you get a different person or experience in your way. When I was also watching like Simon, because he was working closely with GDK team, and I always nowadays I like to speak about Java, especially GDK more, and even so I watching different speeches for him and different people, so I get more. You have many people, and I remember back days when I was reading core book, I was reading also detail and detail, different book, the same subject, but you will find always there is words hidden between the sentence from different mind, different point of view for the same subject. So you get more and more. So this is, I mean, this is like, thank you, Ben, even, thank you, Simon, thank you, Bruno, for all these awesome things, but it has indirect effect for us. And this is also, I encourage people to listen. No, you had speech for Simon, look for someone else who has a speech in same subject, you will find different. So you have the both amazing brains in your brain. So, and thank you, I took from your time.
I'm just gonna jump on one quick point, and then I'm gonna let Simon take his main slot. But I just couldn't pass that up. So I just want to say that it's an important skill, is to be able to take the viewpoints of other people who are going to edit you, and to not take it personally when you are edited. I'm currently writing a new book. This is kind of a spoiler, but I can tell you guys because you're on the stream here. The second edition of the Well-Grounded Java Developer is underway and it's coming out in early access very soon. It's a real journey for me to go back to the first book I wrote and to write about some new things for it. But then to write and have a technical editor look at it and to actually come back with some feedback that tells me I'm not telling the story the way that I wanted to. It's not as clear as I needed it to be for my readers. Nobody likes being edited. You come back and you think my prose is my baby. I'm telling this story and it's perfect. And it's very important to remember it's not perfect. It is never perfect.
My pressure, right? My precious.
Yeah, you're precious. Absolutely. So you have to get good at that skill of just saying, well, I'm going to accept, the viewpoint that comes in good grace. It's another important communication skill. And I think that most people who have heard me talk on the subject before know that I personally think the communication and the interpersonal skills of a technologist are far more important, so much more important than the technical skills. You can always learn another language or another framework. The learning how to interact with people and being with people in teams is the most important thing that a developer has to do. And I'm going to shut up now and let Simon talk.
Okay, no, that's fine, Ben. That's fine. There's a couple of things I'd say there. I absolutely agree with Ben. in terms of saying that, when it comes to getting feedback for if you write things and if you're presenting, and as Mohammed said, get more than one perspective on something. That's very important, because one person will see things one way, another person sees things another way. And even though we're talking about technology here, where you can sort of say, well, we're talking computer science, and computer science is supposed to be deterministic. There's only, it's binary. It's either is or isn't. So there is no gray area there. But the way that you explain things to people can be very different, and it can help people to understand things in different ways. So I think it's very important, as Mohammed said, to get multiple views of things, because also people will explain things in a way that you might explain or you might understand from one person, but you don't understand from another person. And I also like Bruno's point about explaining things to people helps you to understand what it is that you're actually talking about. And I will give you sort of a funny example of this. And I've been doing presentations for a while now. And I remember talking to one of my colleagues, this was probably about 10 or 15 years ago. And we agreed that we both had the same moment when we were doing presentations. And the moment was, you're standing there and you're talking about a slide and you're explaining something to an audience. It could be quite a large audience. And you suddenly have that moment where you go, oh, that's how it works. Now I understand what I'm talking about.
On the way, right?
Yeah. So yes, I think that's what I would say about that.
Yeah,
Cool.
Very true, Simon.
Yeah.
So one thing before we change questions here, I'm going to talk exactly about learning and acquiring skills right after this talk here, right? So if you're interested in this subject, you can stay a little bit longer, and because that's the very, very next talk.
Cool. Okay, so let's move to another question. I guess I'll combine like two questions because they are kind of, I guess, related. So one kind of common question, right? What is the secret, right, that Java stays so strong and popular over these 25 years, right? But I want to combine that with another like question. What can you name like top 3 most exciting like features that have been introduced in Java or JVM during all these kind of years? So I can say like from, if I would to answer, I would probably, name the garbage collection in JVM. Probably I would also name like Java memory model and concurrency. And finally, the Java 8 streams and lambdas, right? It's probably not the 3 things, but that's what I kind of, I would say, because I guess garbage collection and concurrency, that was something that, brought some difference for the Java language comparing to some of the other languages, especially in the early days, right? And obviously Java 8 streams and lambdas, that was, I mean, for me, that was so big kind of jump and, such a big like feature that has been introduced after long like periods of time. So, I enjoyed kind of, using lambdas and streams. I find this very, 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 very cool. So now back to you guys. What do you think about
I'm going to
that?
jump in on this one.
Yeah, go
I'm
for
going
it.
to say that in terms of why Java has been so successful, I think a large part of it is actually down to the JVM itself. And the reason being that what we've got there is a managed runtime environment. And rather than when you look at languages like C and C++, where you have to deal with memory management explicitly and, various things like that, the JVM sort of isolates you from a number of those things and makes development easier. Now, I know Java gets criticized sometimes for being rather verbose and more boilerplate code than you really need. And obviously that's being addressed through things like Project Amber. But I do think that the JVM is one of the reasons that Java's been so successful. It's its scalability, the fact that it can support these massive workloads. And I think the other thing that's made Java really successful over 25 years is the very pragmatic approach that the JDK developers have had to the language. And if you go right back to the beginning and you talk to James Gosling, he will say that Java was designed to be a blue-collar language. So it was designed to get the job done. It wasn't an academic exercise. It wasn't a research project in terms of trying to find new ways of doing things. It was about how do we get the job done? And I really think that Sun and then Oracle have done a very good job in sort of staying true to that in terms of the way that they've added new features to things. Not always 100% successful, but most of the time been very, very good at this. And the sort of maintaining backwards compatibility has also really helped to keep things moving that way. Top three features, I absolutely agree with you in terms of lambdas and streams. Introducing a functional style of programming to Java really was a big thing, and it made JDK 8 very, very attractive to developers who maybe had thought, well, Java's getting a bit stale and things like that. A couple of other things that I really like in Java. More recently, the helpful null pointer exceptions. That's got to be one of the most important things that we've seen in a long time. I mean, that really is a useful thing. I can't even think of a third one at the moment. I'll have to come back and come to that. So I'll hand over to Ben.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So yeah, I mean, I would agree basically with everything that Simon said about the backwards compatibility and about those being some of the underpinnings of success. And after in the Q&A after my talk, Oleg and I were talking, and I want to sort of, one of my big things that I think is responsible for a lot of Java success is it's been really lucky. It's a language from 25 years ago that made some definite directional strategic bets about the direction of the computing industry, and it was right about most of them. Things like the fact that Moore's law was going to continue, so the expense of a managed runtime would be amortized by Moore's law relatively quickly. That is a design bet that was made, and it turned out to be correct. The use of bytecode, which was originally for platform independence, and it turns out that actually really what it is the input format for a very efficient JIT compiler to squeeze that performance out of Moore's law. Was that luck or was that judgment? I don't know. A little of both. There are things in the class file format. The class file format, in some ways, the fact that LDC is not a typed bytecode is probably just pure luck. And yet that turns out to be able to open the door to things like invoke dynamic. It would be almost impossible to do invoke dynamic if you'd had a typed LDC bytecode, for example. And that means that brings us on to the second piece, which is the continual innovation. The fact that the JDK runtime has been re-engineered quite substantially in the Java 8 timeframe with invoke dynamic is opening the door to give us that longevity, that second wave, or which wave are we on now? Second wave, third wave? I've lost count. Because people keep declaring Java dead, and it keeps coming back to life. You know, it's very fashionable in some circles to beat on Java and say, "Oh, Java is dead." Well, it keeps defying the odds, and it keeps coming back and coming back. It's like a George Romero zombie movie. You know that at the end of the movie, the undead are going to be back for one last go, and Java's kind of like that. So I think it's partly luck, and I think it's partly judgment. And one of the other things that Oleg and I said in the Q&A was, it's like Java was out there 25 years ago. It had some fairly extreme viewpoints in terms of features, but it brought them to the mainstream. It wasn't the first language to do reflection. That's, I guess, small talk. It wasn't the first language to do garbage collection. It wasn't the first language to do JIT compilation or self-modification. It wasn't the first language to do any of these things. But what it did is it brought them to the mainstream, and it popularized them, and it made them part of what the mainstream is. So if Java looks a little conservative with a small c, and a little staid and a little mainstream, that's because it defined the mainstream and moved it to where it is now. So what I would pick as my three features, people really like lambdas, but what I agree, they are so important to having extended the lifetime of Java. But there's something else I want to say about them, which is that they are only very slightly functional programming. When I think about functional programming, that is the least little bit of functional programming that you can do. There is so much more to functional programming that we basically don't do in Java. The JVM, it's great that we were able to retrofit and get streams and that view of container types into the VM and into the type system, but it was not designed as a functional language, and boy does it show. But then the other counterpoint to that is, does it matter? It may only be slightly functional programming, but is it the piece of functional programming that most developers actually want? And I think you could argue that actually, yes, it is. So functional without the type, what do they call it? Type system astronauts. They're going off into the Haskell-like depths, or Scala, where you have all of this incredible type system stuff which no one can understand. We don't have that in Java. We have map and filter and reduce and a few other basic pieces of functional programming, which is what people want to do. We want to build simple declarative stream pipelines. We don't really want to do a lot else more than that. So maybe the lambdas are in a sweet spot. A couple of other things. I'm going to pick Invoke Dynamic, because Invoke Dynamic, yes, it's required for lambdas, but it's so much more. That it really has opened the door to a regeneration of the internals of the JVM in a way that I don't think has been possible in many other languages. And then finally, just because I think it's still underappreciated, and I think it still has a huge way to go, but Java Flight Recorder. Flight Recorder is I think, a great example of the tooling aspect of the JVM. One of the things which sets Java apart and which makes it so compelling from an enterprise and corporate perspective is the fact that it's a great place for tools and tool makers. And Java Flight Recorder is just one example of that. And the data that it produces in terms of this new age of observability and open instrumentation and open telemetry and all of the things which are happening where people actually need to understand what the hell is going on in their incredibly complex software stack. And Java Flight Recorder, I think, is going to make the behavior of Java applications understandable. And in more complex stacks, that is going to give it an advantage against other languages which don't have a comparable technology. And with that, I'll shut up and hand over to Mohammed.
No, well said, Ben. Well said, Simon. I agree. I didn't find any points to speak about. You already give it all.
Already mentioned everything, right?
But I can see one that makes Java really stayed this long. Also, besides what Simon and Ben said, is the community. We love Java. We not just take it as advertising. Even people left Oracle after that. You find they are doing more amazing and freely work for Java, pushing it. Which is amazing. That shows that we love this language and we needed to keep it in our way. We took it as this is our weapon in our career path. I love it. I still continue. People, you have to know Kotlin. You have to do. All of them are JVM based languages. So you are making use of the JVM. So, and I agree. And synthetic sugar, it's different preferences, but I still just doing everything in Java. The future is keep going in Java. That really, yes, you have said the garbage collection, and every time we optimize this, and also recently we start to introduce many garbage collection outside of Oracle development, like from Red Hat, from the Azure, from different people. Like this is an amazing. So you have different point of view from garbage collecting your memory, so it could suit any environment you are working towards. So now also we have scaled down Java. You have G-Link, and G-Link could bring to you the just enough runtime environment for your application, which could suit any kind of environment you are working as an IoT embedded cloud computing nowadays, and we have the MEM coming in the way. The community work and the push, the GCP, the people, the Java champion, the developers themselves, the adoption of the Java from very big companies and libraries. This pushes Java to stay strong in the market, and it's not something that you can leave tomorrow, so nobody will get not touched. So yes, it's a huge. So this is what can I add: the community and the people, and the features that I like. I told you this definitely garbage collection. Invoke Dynamic, I agree with Ben totally. It opens the door for, and still we will see in the future how it will provide more and more feature enhancement for the language. And I like also one single thing that I start to use it because, I don't say that I'm all, I know I love Java, so I try to do everything in Java. I learned some different languages just to see how it works, like not language, JavaScript is a scripting language. So I definitely front-end engineering, I do it. I learned TypeScript because it's almost object-oriented look-likes, because this is my roots, very preservative, object-oriented, doing stuff in Java. But I read about Kotlin, I read about other stuff to do some job, but single source file execution, like you run Java with Java. So this was amazing for me, because now I do all the scripting in my Bash with Java. I don't have to write Bash commands to do all of this stuff. So I like this feature so much. And yes, that's for me. I can hand it to Bruno.
All right. I think we're out of time now, so I'm going to be very quick because it's very hard after those three geniuses here talking about Java, right? So what else can we say, right? So I just want to say one thing, right? For me, the biggest thing that allows Java to stay, it's like a combination of what everyone said here, right? It's the if you get everything together, it's the openness, right? When Java was released, in 1995, 1996, right? It was released. It was not an open source license, right? But it was a license that allowed you to work with the code and use it. And it was not an open source license because open source was only defined in 1998, right? Like 2 years after Java, right? So it's like, it couldn't be an open source license because there's no open source license at that time, right? So basically, Java created this whole openness idea that where you could that's why IBM joined Java, that's why Netscape joined Java at that time, and I think that this whole process from the beginning to today, right, it's very open, and then OpenJDK, right, finally getting Java to an open source license. That was like an awesome accomplishment. The whole community fought very heavily for. And so this openness that Java had from the beginning, allowing people to go around, play with it, experiment with it, create new things. I think this is what gets Java very, very strong. And because of that, what I think is the most important feature of Java is actually not Java itself, right? It's actually it's the JCP. Now today, the combination of the JCP and OpenJDK, right? The two places where Java evolves, right? Because the whole idea that you can have open places where you can define the basis, and then everyone can build on top of that. Everyone can go and create more things, right? So everyone here has served on the board of the JCP. So congratulations to all of you to actually making this whole thing happen, right? And all of you have participated on OpenJDK somehow, right? So congratulations for making this whole thing happen. So I think this is awesome that we have this open ecosystem that allows for open innovation, and I think this is for me the most interesting feature of Java. And the one that I like most, the most exciting thing for me that happened for Java is what Ben mentioned, Invoke Dynamics. I think Invoke Dynamics is like this tiny little thing that when it was released in Java 7, right, I mean, there's nothing for it, right? It's just it's a bytecode, right? No one can do anything with that. But that allows an explosion of languages and innovation in Java and lambdas and all of that. So I think that this whole process of being I think that Java being, like Ben said, a conservative language that that actually it kind of defines the mainstream, let's say, right? It's basically all of these cool ideas and experimentation. It allows you experimentation because anyone can get the source code, anyone can get the JVM, anyone can create things on it, and so you can experiment all day long. You can create all kind of crazy things, and then at some point, the ecosystem through the JCP, through OpenJDK, we filter all those things down, and we say, okay, so from all the things that are being experimented, what is the real, down to earth, like Simon said, right, the blue collar thing, right, where we can all agree on, it's awesome, and then everyone can use, without worrying about, how that's going to be supported in the future, right? So if you get all of these, so if you get, the blue collar mentality of Java, if you get, the innovation and the conservative that Ben was talking about at the same time, if you get the community that Mohammed was talking about, you get all of these things together, right? That's Java. So I think that's very cool.
And this is actually the recipe, right? This is actually the secret why Java is so strong during these years. I have a couple of more technical questions to you guys. So some people argue that Java is too heavy, for microservices especially, and for some, function as a service stuff, for some serverless stuff in cloud. What would you say about that? I know that kind of Ben slightly touched that when talking about Java 11, and also I guess probably kind of Graal VM is kind of answer on this kind of questions. But I just wanted to to hear from you guys what do you think about that, and also I guess we can also combine that with another question. What are the most emerging or promising technologies or frameworks that we have in Java space nowadays? Of course, there are lots, but you can just probably name, I don't know, one or two, right?
Okay, so let me start with this to kind of do a generic answer here that's going to help everyone instead of taking away from everyone. So basically, what I think in terms of performance, in terms of Java being used for this or that. Look, that's what we've been hearing about Java since day one, right? The first time Java came out, we had all of these things. Oh, Java can be used because of the JVM. Java can be used because of performance. From day one, right? If that was true, all the other languages there are actually slower than Java would also not be available. Would also not be usable to anything else, right? So basically, there in terms of performance, right? Of course you're going to use the right tool for the right job, right? But in terms of performance, Java doesn't own anything to anyone else, right? And there's all kinds of ways that things have been fixed, and I found it's very cool that because it's an open ecosystem, an open innovation ecosystem, that any challenge that comes in this direction, there are people working to improve it, right? That's why you mentioned Graal VM, Quarkus, and all these kind of things. So those are solutions because it's an open ecosystem that lots of companies are participating. Those are solutions to the real problems that show up, right? So of course, there's always real problems. Look, Java has been overcoming performance problems since day one, because that's the biggest question that people ask. For 25 years. I mean, come on, it's time for us to think. Okay, let's instead of asking Java is not suitable for anything, how about we say what we need to do to get Java suitable for something, right? Because that's what Java has been doing for so many years. And in terms of frameworks, the one thing that I love about Java, right, is that there's so many different things for you to choose, right? Doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Doesn't matter your preferences. There's a lot of different choices that you can have. And I think there nothing beats choice, right? So the more we experiment, the more people are doing things, the more interesting it's going to be for you, right? And then you should analyze for your particular problem, for what you're trying to do, what is the best solution for you. And sometimes the best solution for you is like the bleeding edge thing, right? Oh, something that just came out yesterday. I want to try because that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to fix today. And I don't care if that thing disappears tomorrow, because I'm on the bleeding edge. I want to be the first one. I want to be right there. I want to do something that no one else has done. So that's awesome. But then there's all the other things. There's like long-term stuff, right? There's things that is going to be supported for a long time. There's a large community behind it, so you're never going to be alone. So then it makes sense for you to use things that are not the bleeding edge. Why? Because it's easy to hire people. It's easy to fix problems. There's a lot of solutions out there. So what is your situation? So the biggest question is, you that are watching us, what is your situation? What is it you need in your project? And choose that. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruno. I guess you kind of summarize your answers for everyone. I guess
no. I want to go in detail, right? Because I just give you the overview.
Do you have anything to add, guys, to that one, or you agree with Bruno?
I can add. I agree totally with Bruno on everything. Just I have been asked this question a lot, as you have said. You explained it. But just I always, when you are not convinced, just experiment and see what suits you, because based on the experiment you will get, because especially for juniors and senior people, because they are confused, they are hearing a lot from different people, and then they would like to decide based on hearing. We know about Java, so we know when we choose it for different situation, how to use it effectively for different situation. But when you are not convinced and you're not sure enough, just experiment. This is how you can take the stuff and use, and you have a proof. So you can tell your manager, look, I did my experimentation benchmarking, and here it is. So this is the way that you take more. Again, is the language. The language is amazing. We improve, especially since Java 10. It suits clouds, it suits Kubernetes, definitely because of Dockerization, the memory awareness inside this kind of Dockerization. It wasn't like before. It's improvement. So now Java 11, you have G1 GC. It's improved by 60% faster out of the box for you. So you don't have just by migration, you have all of these kind of tweaking, and you have different garbage collector. How it's so slow, or you're computing. We were comparing or complaining about this because back then, at old days, the computing systems were slow, and then we look forward for this. And now we are not complaining because we have a very huge, fast, super fast processors, memory management, and everything. So we cannot complain anymore. If you do benchmarking, it doesn't matter between C++ even with Java. It's very slight, which is not affecting your application's performance. And even we use Java now for IoT, for embedded systems, for everything. So I cannot say it's slow like before. So.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and this is kind of the proof that we are improving each year, kind of with each Java release. And I guess from what we discussed like today, basically, I'm pretty sure that there is very big and bright future of the Java language and Java platform itself. And I guess at this on this note, I would. Invite you to the Q&A Zoom chat, where we can also kind of speak to the participants if they have any like specific questions to you guys. Yeah, thanks a lot for joining today, and thanks a lot for this conversation. I guess this is very important, and hopefully we encouraged people to work with Java and to improve Java and participate community. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Stay for the next talk, because I think we're gonna run over a little bit here. 1 minute, you're gonna have a next talk. So just stay here.
No, we have a we have a shift, Bruno. So we can switch to the Q&A chat channel, and then you can jump on your talk. I guess we have like some switch.